Waterloo-based BlackBerry is reporting second quarter losses and once again cutting its workforce. It comes on the heels of disappointing sales of its much anticipated new raft of handsets. But there's hope, at least in the shape of a provisional purchase agreement from a consortium led by Fairfax Financial. Joining us now to talk about what all this might mean for BlackBerry is Greg O'Brien. Greg's the publisher and editor at cartt.ca. It's a website that focuses on news in the telecom industry. Hello to you.
Hi there.
Okay, I want to begin by looking at last Friday. It was a big day of cuts and losses at BlackBerry. Let's take a look at this. So projected second quarter loss of nearly $1 billion US. BlackBerry says it will lay off 4,500 employees. It aims to slash its operating costs by 50% by next May, and BlackBerry says it will give up on the consumer market except for higher-end professionals. Now, Greg, it wasn't so long ago, just earlier this year, that there was a CEO, Thorsten Heinz, standing up saying they've reinvented the company. New operating system, Alicia Keys named as global creative director. What happened to this company?
The new products didn't sell. I was at the launch event myself. I switched from my Android to an X10 or a Z10, like like a loyal Canadian should, I guess. But it proved that the product just wasn't good enough. It was a much better BlackBerry. It did all the BlackBerry things really well, but it didn't do all of the things that consumers want. It didn't have the apps. It just didn't measure up to the iPhone and to the Samsung and to an HTC and some other devices.
So can you just, is that all there was to this? I mean, the underwhelming response, was it because of the BlackBerry 10 operating system?
The BlackBerry 10 operating system is a great operating system. It's been time tested. It works very well. But it's really, to hit the consumer market, you need a big company behind you. You need Apple, you need Google. To go global with a company that seems big but is as small as BlackBerry, and it used to have the market, but the market changed under it. So these devices that they brought out, while they were really slick, and the people I know who have BlackBerries love them. They love the Q10. You know, the people who got the Q10 with the physical keyboard, they would come to me, this is the best device ever. But all they've ever had is a BlackBerry. If you've been over in the Android world, if you've had an iPhone, you know how much better those phones are, how much more opportunities those phones give you.
Okay, so we get to today. Fairfax Financial Holdings has put together this equity consortium to buy BlackBerry to the tune of $4.7 billion. At this point, is this the only viable option for BlackBerry?
Probably. I don't have any insight into what's going on behind the scenes, but that really seems to be the only offer that's going to be out there. Microsoft has cast its lot with Nokia. Motorola is owned by Google. Apple has its thing. IBM doesn't seem interested. There may be some Chinese interest in buying BlackBerry, but not a lot of interest from the Canadian government angle, perhaps, to see BlackBerry fall into Canadian hands. Okay,
we're going to talk about some of those things a little later, but in terms of BlackBerry, the company right now, and Fairfax is interested in it, it's interested in this company that by a lot of estimates is going down the drain. What are the cash holdings of BlackBerry?
They still have around $2.6 billion in the bank. And they do have a lot of people deploying their BlackBerry Enterprise service around the world. I mean, big companies that are using this back office stuff that consumers don't see, that manages sort of the mobile workforce. So if you work for a giant company and you're out there with your PC and with your BlackBerry, or even with your Android or iPhone, this back-end stuff manages all of that, keeps it ultra secure for these big companies, for these big government departments as well. So that is still a big business, a big ongoing, a good business for BlackBerry, very competitive business. So there are markets there. There is an ongoing business there. It's not like it's a struggling company. It's lost in the consumer market, but there still is opportunities there for it.
So Fairfax hopes it can turn it around.
Exactly, and also take it private. So there won't be the dog and pony show every quarter. There won't be growth things they have to hit. There won't be analysts to deal with. There won't be there can be not any media questions. They don't have any they're not under any obligation to talk to the media folk. They can just say, okay, this is the direction that we want to go in, and go there. And they can accept maybe lower margins, maybe lower growth, because they don't have to satisfy the public markets anymore. So that makes it a different company as well.
You mentioned Microsoft wanting to take over Nokia's mobile phone business, somewhere to the tune of $7.2 billion, to compete with the giants, Apple and Samsung. If that deal goes ahead, what effect will that have on BlackBerry?
Not too much, because Microsoft is still with Nokia. They still want to push big into the consumers. I mean, that's where really the gravy is. But Microsoft still makes all of its money on all of its operating systems on PCs that are already installed. So they can still plow their billions and billions and billions of dollars into Nokia and into mobile to try and make it better. Right now, it's a really slick system, the Microsoft mobile operating system. But still, it's not something that's caught on with consumers. But they have enough money there that if they keep pushing it, maybe it turns around, maybe it gets better, maybe they catch lightning in a bottle the way they did with Xbox. You know, Microsoft wasn't thought of as a computer game or a game manufacturer before, and then they created Xbox, and it just went gangbusters.
So BlackBerry doesn't need to worry about this.
They're all competitors out there. Yeah, they got to worry.
You know, BlackBerry has always staked its reputation on being the phone for business use. It repeatedly says that's where we're going to focus. It still says that's where we're going to continue to focus. Is that a sound strategy now?
It's a tough one. It's really tough, and that's sort of what they got caught up in. Is that this is the business. This is the working man or working woman's device. You know, this is something that the companies hand out to their employees, and they get their work done. The problem is that the workers are coming up the other way, and they're saying, I have my Android, I have my iPhone, this is what I want to use. I don't care what you want to give me, I want to use this. So the bring your own device aspect is growing rapidly.
And as more and more people do that, doesn't it just become irrelevant then for BlackBerry to say, we understand that, but we're going to stay focused this way?
Not necessarily, because there's still a sizable chunk of corporations and governments who want to keep everything ultra secure, and BlackBerry does offer that to them still. So I looked at a survey earlier this week where it showed that 62% of North American companies are launching or have launched a bring your own device campaign, where they give their employees maybe $200, they can buy their own device or put it towards the device they already have. But there's still, you know, that 1/3 of corporations, of governments who say, no, we are handing out our own devices, we are going to make our employees use these, and because we need to be secure.
BlackBerry has also always staked its reputation on its security, the promise of security. It was a phone of financial execs, it was a phone of the White House. The President of the United States held up his BlackBerry so famously. Is it still the leading smartphone when it comes to privacy and security?
It's probably still thought of as the most secure platform out there, but people are willing to accept less security with Apple and less security with Android for the opportunities it gives them, for the apps it gives them. You know, so BlackBerry, yeah, it was a great business device, but they missed the mark with this operating system 10 launch, because they said, no, this is still the business device, but they came to market without a viable, just a restaurant app, a restaurant finding app. You know, there's Yelp and there's other ones on Android and iPhone, and there was nothing on BlackBerry. So if you're going to say you're a business device, for God's sakes, business people look for restaurants when they're traveling, and there was nothing like that on BlackBerry. So there were certain things that they missed.
There has been much made in the media about the latest BlackBerry news this week. I want to read a little bit of what Andrew Coyne wrote for cartt.ca. He described BlackBerry's troubles as a slow death spiral. Here's what he said. The Harper government has been at pains to make it clear it would not step in to save it. The industry minister's most recent intervention on the subject was limited to wishing it all the best, while expressing the hope it can make it on its own. This is all to the good. Nothing can save BlackBerry now, and nothing should. The company had a great run in one of the world's most competitive industries, an industry it in no small part created. But it became a victim of its own success, too complacent, too slow to innovate, too little focused on the emerging consumer market, while it tended to its corporate client base. Is Andrew Coyne right?
Yeah, that's pretty fair. That's a pretty fair comment. You know, they stayed tried and true to these devices, and when the iPhone came out, they tried to push out some consumer devices like the Storm and the Torch, which were awful. They just did not work. You know, I remember trying to show people my own website on the Torch that I have, and I'd have to try and get it on there 10 minutes before the meeting, so I could walk into the meeting and say, oh, this is what my site looks like, because it just wouldn't load. And it's not because of the network; it was because of the device itself. So Coyne is right. You know, that this is just, they missed the BYOD, bring your own device approaching. They missed that boat coming. And a lot of people did. Nobody knew what the iPhone was going to look like when it came out in 2007, and it was just a complete, you know, sea change gets used a lot, but as a cliche, but it was a complete sea change. That, you know, Apple changed the entire world with the iPhone.
And we're in 2013, 6 years later. Somehow people haven't been able to catch up to Apple.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and for BlackBerry, it's protecting their legacy business. You know, they had all these corporate clients to serve, and the corporations were telling them, oh yeah, we're with you, we're with you, we're with you. But then again, the thousands of employees were saying, no, we want something else.
You know, the BlackBerry story is obviously not just a tech story. This is about people and a city, Waterloo. BlackBerry, you know, really helped build that city, helped keep people there employed. How are these affecting Kitchener-Waterloo's image as a hub for tech?
Yeah, that's going to take that's a big bruise, you know, for Waterloo, because BlackBerry's always been kind of the jewel in Waterloo, you know. But there are a number of other startups there, you know. Sandvine, for example, very good, powerful Kitchener-Waterloo-based company. DeGero is another high-tech company based there. So, and a lot of these people have background with RIM, so. You know, there is a growing hub there, and Mr. Watsa coming on board, I mean, he's got a vested interest as well. He's the Chancellor of the University of Waterloo. So, you know, he's making a bet on BlackBerry, but he also wants to maintain...
This is Prem Watsa.
Prem Watsa, yeah, the Fairfax CEO. You know, he also wants to maintain that tech hub in Waterloo and still have that thought of as Canada's Silicon Valley.
1 year from now, you're sitting across the table from me. Are we going to be talking about BlackBerry? And if so, what's the story?
Well, I think anyone who probably has a BlackBerry device in their hand who doesn't work for a big government department or a giant corporation, that's probably the last BlackBerry they're ever going to have. You know, you're still going to see people carrying them around, and maybe you'll be able to identify, oh yeah, he works for, you know, Dow Chemical or something like that, or she works for, you know, the Department of Defense or something like that, and they'll still have their BlackBerries. But it'll be, if it does go private too, you'll start hearing less about them. You know, there won't be the press releases, there won't be the quarterly releases. Like, yeah, BlackBerry is still there. It's still got, you know, 8,000, 9,000 employees in Waterloo, and they, you know, and in some cases they still are hiring. You know, they're looking for voice recognition experts, for example. So they're looking to still grow what they do, but they have to pull back. They just can't be a part of the global consumer smartphone market anymore because it's too big for them and it's just gone away from them.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.